Hi everybody, good morning. This is Jean here, Jean Truelove from Truelove Quilts for You. I am by myself. My husband Ian is in the other room. He has his own little show here on mine of showcasing people's sewing rooms. You can see our playlist for that. It's going down a real treat. Again, if you're new here, my husband asks people, he's very interested in my sewing journey, my quilting journey, and our sewing rooms. And he's asked people, you out there and folks, if you would like to share some of your sewing rooms with him. He's going to showcase them, just a 5 or 6 minute video every now and again of your pictures sent in to me. If you want to send them in to truelovequiltsforyou@gmail.com, Ian would be happy to showcase your spaces. But I am working on my row by row quilt, my row along with Jean quilt, and I think I've done about 10 different blocks that are being put in my quilt row by row. A row by row quilt is just that, either vertical or horizontal blocks, pretty much the same block, perhaps the same theme, perhaps going horizontally, and then attached row by row. I'm working on my tree row, which that was one of my last videos in my series, and quite a lot of you were interested in me making a house block and or houses. Well, I've made one. I'm not making them another again. This was an old pattern that I was following for this little schoolhouse block. As you can see, it turned out lovely. My little red schoolhouse there. I quite think it's super. I did add a little bit of green for the bottom bit of grass. This is my row that I have put my trees, which I had done a little while ago. I've made my row a little bit longer because as you know, I just sort of add pieces to make my row longer. I want to explain something about this semi-tutorial that's coming up for this red schoolhouse block. It's an 8-inch block with my hunk of green fabric down here to make up for the size. As you know, that's what I do. I was following a pattern, and I was an older pattern, and I was very, very careful to follow the directions well. Again, I always say that your precise measurements in quilting blocks is important. Well, this isn't much as a tutorial as look over my shoulder, because I don't want you to perhaps just follow me precisely, because it was a little bit wrong. It wasn't me who was wrong, I don't think. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe somewhere along the way you guys can see what I did wrong. The only thing after the fact is, again, if you're more of an experienced quilter, is I did the half square triangles wrong. And I don't even explain that when I'm doing it. I do the half square triangles, how I was going to do them, and then after the fact that they were all sort of too big, whatever. I'm not going back and redoing this block. I made one, and at the end of the day, it turned out really quite lovely. See my lovely little schoolhouse block. I think it's super. As I was saying along the way, my row's not long enough, so I had a hunk of fabric at the end. When I put my rows together, I'll see if they fit. If they don't, I'll add or subtract a piece of fabric. And this is a quote, a scrap quilt, as it were. But again, my points don't match on my trees. I was having a sort of a bad day when I put this together, and I'm not bothered with that at all. I think in the end of the day, when you look at it back from there, what is that, 100 yards from a galloping horse, it looks really pretty, right? It's so pretty. And I'm just doing one of them. I'm just doing one block, which I think is actually really quite pretty. Again, yeah, love from the Trueloves. Have a lovely day. Bye-bye. I don't know whether I'm going to put this video up because it's not really a tutorial. You see what I'm saying, right?
Well, I'm your biggest fan, so I'm biased, but that was so spontaneously good, your explanation and your appeal to us, the observers. I don't think you need to change anything. And
I do.
Well, you said you weren't feeling so good this morning. You look good, and you're animated, and the explanations are great.
But it's not a real good tutorial because I should correct it, and I don't. Because I'm not. Because I don't.
It's like your points.
Yeah. Oh no, I'm not bothered about my points. My trees are completely cut
Well,
off.
I'm glad you don't go back and correct them. What were you saying about the patterns? And it's so true. Even I know it's true.
Yeah. Like you'll get a pattern, and they'll come out like later saying, "Oh, there's a correction. You cut this, or you know that's been printed wrong." But then they correct it, and I'm like not correcting it.
I've seen that over the years.
Yeah, I
know that's true. Yeah,
it's okay.
It's the overall look. I tell you, when you were up on your, you had the various elements of this quilt you're working on now up on your, what do you call it, display wall?
Design wall.
Design wall. And you were saying that between each band of quilting, rows of quilting, horizontal, and you had one vertical there already, that you were going to put pink in between each row of elements.
Yep.
I'm thinking pink, the pink's going to be nice, but plain pink. And then you just showed me what you're going to do.
Yeah.
And so many times in the past when you've been creating quilts and you've perhaps even demonstrated to me what you're going to do, you've shown me the various things you're putting together, and I've had an opinion. Great that I zipped it, because your vision of the completed quilt in your mind, you know it all goes together, whereas I see the various elements and I'm being the architect engineer and thinking, is this really going to work? And yet the finished job, I say to myself, oh, I'm so glad I never said anything, because the finished creation is superb.
Thank you, Ian.
I couldn't.
So this video looked okay?
Sometimes I have to shut my mouth. Do I ever shut my mouth? I don't know.
Do I ever shut my mouth?
Should I tell the truth? Do I want to live tonight?
Oh, stop it. Stop. All right, so I should put this video up anyway.
I love it.
All right. You will have seen the finished block, my small finished house block, schoolhouse block. I think I'm just going to be making one, as I will say in the beginning. This is going to be finishing at 8 inches, and this is the design board for one 8-inch block. There are many pieces to this block, but I'm going to try to break it down as I do, as easy as possible. You are going to be wanting to take a screenshot or write this down as I'm writing it down, because there are a lot of pieces that you're going to be needing to keep track of. Again, I have this little batting covered, I got a canvas that I've just taped the batting onto for my little design board. For this block, you will see we have used 4 fabrics. We've used the red body, the blue sky, the black roof and chimney, and the cream window fabric here. So for fabric A, I'm calling that the body. I will be taking in-depth pictures of these actual measurements for you. Again, I recommend you keep it like this to keep yourself in order. We're going to just do a few of subcutting, just a few of them, and then we're going to be putting the block together. It's not that hard, but there are a lot of pieces. So for fabric A, for the body, you're going to be cutting 3 1.5 by 2.5 inch pieces. That's up here. There's 3 1.5 by 2.5 inch. You're going to be cutting 3 1.5 by 3.5. You're going to be cutting 2, which I have to do yet. Excuse me. You're going to be cutting 2 1.5 by 5.5. I have to cut another one. You're going to be cutting 2 3/8 of an inch squares. And then you're going to be cutting 1 2-inch by 2.5 inch. That's the red body of our schoolhouse. For fabric B is the cream window. You're going to be cutting 1.5 by 3.5 inch. And then you're going to be cutting 2 1.5 by 2.5. That's our windows. For fabric C, that's the roof and the top of the chimney. You're going to be cutting 1 piece 2 inches by 4 inches. You're going to be cutting 2 pieces 2 3/8 inch square. The 3/8 is right below the 2.5 inch, which is 2 4/8. 2 3/8 inches square. 2 of them. And then you're going to be cutting 2 1 7/8 of an inch. Just slightly small of 2 inches. Move this over here. For fabric D, which is our blue sky fabric, you're going to be cutting 1 3 by 5. 3 by 5. You're going to be cutting 2 3/8 inch. And then you're going to be cutting 2 1 7/8 inch squares. Okay? Tremendous amount of cutting for one little 8-inch square. But it goes together quite quickly. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to cut this. I'm going to cut one more piece of my 1.5 by 5.5 inch, and I'll show you how we start to put this together. See that this block is made up mostly of squares and rectangles. Very simple to put together. You need the sequence, obviously, but there are just a few half square triangles that we're going to make now. As you've noticed, we have cut 2 of our body fabric, 2 2 3/8. I'm going to put them down here. We've cut 2 of our roof fabric, 2 3/8, and we've cut 2 of our sky fabric, 2 3/8. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to, on one or the other of them, I'm just going to take 1 2 3. I'm going to put these over here. Oops, let me do that over there. And on the reverse side of one of them, of each of the, on the reverse side of one of our 2 7/8, I'm going to place my ruler, and I'm going to start with a marking pen. I'm going to mark right on the diagonal from line to line, right there. Okay, on the reverse side. Set my ruler up, go from corner, diagonal to corner. Start in the middle and draw a line right through. Hopefully I can see this one on the black. I think I will be able to. I'm going to just draw, whoops, I'm going to draw on that line. Yes, I can see that, even if you can't. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to match up I'm going to match up a red lined one with a blue plain. Okay, and I'm going to be putting the right sides of these 2 squares together. Okay, I'm going to be taking my blue lined pretty side, and I'm going to be putting it to the pretty side of the unmarked black square. I'm then going to be taking my marked black square, pretty side, and be putting it to the pretty side of my red. Okay? I'm going to go over to my machine and I'm going to stitch right on that line. Okay? I'm going to stitch right on that line on all 3 units. Then I'll come back and I'll show you what I'm going to do. So as you can see, I have stitched on the line on these 3 different units here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my ruler and I'm going to go in 1/4 inch away from that line, and all I'm going to be doing is cutting away the bit, because what we're doing is we're making a half square triangle. Okay? We're doing it with the different colors. I'm just going to cut that one aside. I'm just going to cut that one apart, 1/4 inch seam, and that one. These are going to be making our chimneys and our skies. And this one, I think I need a new blade. And I'm going to go over to my ironing board. I'm going to set these seams here, and I'm going to be pressing over to the dark side like that. And I have a perfect half square triangle. Okay? So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my 2 1 7/8 inch pieces of my fabric C, my roof, and my 2 1 7/8 inch pieces of my sky. Now I could have made a flying geese unit, but in this case I'm just going to be making 2 half square triangles out of these pieces here. Okay, so I have my 4 pieces of my my 1 7/8 inch, and I'm going to do the exact same thing on the light side of the blue. I'm going to be drawing a line, and then this will be it for our half square triangles. That's it. We're making half square triangles absolutely the traditional way, one at a time. Pretty side of the fabric to the pretty side here, which is it, this one. Like so. The pretty side to the pretty side. I'm going to be doing the exact same thing that I did here. I'm going to be stitching on that line, and I'm going to be cutting it 1/4 inch away from that sewn line. So again, as you can see, I just chain pieced those 2 pieces, right sides together, cutting that apart like that. And then I'll just take my ruler and 1/4 inch away from the marked line. There's a little tiny bit of waste, but I'm okay with that. Whoops, I really do need to get a new blade. There is one, and there is one. And again, pressing it up, setting the seam, pressing up to the dark side. Now all we have to do is put our block together. I've come over to my design board, and I have, looking through it through the viewfinder, it's quite lovely. I'm going to be putting this together. Mustn't panic, because we're going to be doing this in rows, okay? So what I'm going to do is I want you to concentrate first. This is the 3 by 2 by 3. These are our half square triangles. Just concentrate on the first row at a time, and we're going to be sewing together this unit here. Okay, we're going to be sewing, the first thing we're going to be doing is we're going to be sewing the half square triangle unit together. Okay, and then when we have that done at 1/4 inch, we're going to be sewing it to this piece here, which is a little bit short, but I think it's going to be okay. Yeah, I think it's going to be okay. Seems that should be a little bit longer. Anyway, I can jiggery-pokery this like that. Like that together. Yeah, because that will be our top row. press this. And as you can see, this is wrong. Oh, this is wrong. This is correct. This is really wrong. And I know I got that correct. So, this was, oops, this was too big, and these are too big. But, am I bothered about that? I don't know. I'm just going to put this together and cut this roof, the sky and roof off. Or I'm going to halve it. This is what I'm saying is, I'm not going to sweat. Now this is like a good 1/2 inch off, and I don't understand it. So what I'm going to do first of all, is I'm actually going to cut this bottom piece, which should have been bigger. That should have been bigger, obviously. So again, I'm going to see my configuration, and I'm going to cut off some of this 1/2 square triangle there. Now I will lose my points. Remember I always say, don't worry about your points, but this is like 1/2 inch too big. So I'm actually cutting off 1/4 inch. So my width now is okay, but this is funky, but I'll sort that out in a minute. So this is not how you do proper quilting. I always say, if you're going to be quilting, do it precise. So I'm going to tell you that in the beginning of this. I've just sliced it off because I followed the instructions on this pattern, this older pattern. I really did. I think I'm pretty good. I followed the instructions, and actually that looks pretty okay. So now that fits and that fits, but I'll lose this point. Anyway, let me just do this. I'll put this up here like that, end to end. That's 1/2 inch off, 1/2 inch too big. Well, I wonder what this block is going to measure, because it said it's going to measure 8.5 or 8 inches. Well, it's looking good. It looks like a little schoolhouse, but not really. So then I'm going to do this last row here. Well, we'll talk about this. We'll talk about it. How not to do something. The frustration of, actually I followed this pattern. Oops. And how I got it wrong. I guess that's when you see patterns that say, oh, correction too. Oh, it looks quite sweet actually. When I iron that. Let me just see what that looks like through the viewfinder here. Oh wow, sort of turned out nice. Yeah, do as I don't do. So I've come over to my cutting table, and I have my ruler here, and I'm going to cut this down to 8.5 inches square. Actually, it really turned out quite nice. I don't understand it because these were too big. But when it's cut down, it looks nice. It looks like a schoolhouse. So anyway there, folks. That's my block. I'm just making one of them. It's a pain in the neck. All right. Hope you enjoyed this video. Have a lovely day, everybody. See you. Bye.